It's that time of the year again. New year, new me. For about 2 weeks, that is, and then we give up on our New Year's resolutions and slip back into our old routine. So, why do our resolutions fail, and most importantly, how can we fix that? Well, let's get right into it. Whether you want to save money, get organized, spend more time with your loved ones, stop procrastinating, or quit drinking, there are so many different possible changes we can get excited about. The front runner every year though, losing weight. Been there, done that. You set a weight goal and make a plan. You exercise 5 times a week, pick up running, maybe join a gym. Additionally, you adopt a healthier diet and start counting calories. You are really determined to lose weight. Just a few weeks in, the excitement starts fading. Waking up early to exercise becomes a drag, and that juicy, meaty burger looks better than ever before. You're back to square one and give up on that weight loss dream. Maybe next year. What happened here? The short answer, your habits took over. So psychologically, how does that work? Let's understand habits. Academic research understands habits as direct cue-response connections in your memory developed through repetition. A cue occurs which triggers a certain behavior. Cues can be a lot of things. They can include sounds, textures, tastes, objects, even certain times of days, your feelings, or other people. For example, simply the time of day, let's say 6 a.m., or seeing your coffee machine alone, triggers you making that morning cup of coffee without any thought going into it. Or when feeling depressed, some of us might engage in stress eating a pint of ice cream. Key is that those behaviors are learned. In other words, you have responded to a certain cue or trigger so many times that this behavior has become the default response to the cue. No thought goes into it. It doesn't matter what your goals or intentions are. The cue triggers the behavior, period. When habitual behavior is activated, your brain deactivates or disregards any possible alternative behavior, making habits the most accessible response in any given context. In fact, habits dominate our everyday lives. 45% of people's behaviors are repeated nearly daily and mostly in the same context. So when you decide to pursue the New Year's resolution of losing weight, you need to first understand that it's an uphill battle. You are up against your own automatic behaviors learned over many years and executed daily without any thought. While you may deviate from your habitual behavior, it is difficult because a habituated behavior is readily available in your memory, and the habitual memory trace only changes slowly with new experiences. The stronger a habit, the more difficult this is to do. So you must consciously decide to act differently and then actually do so. Therefore, high mental and motivational effort is needed to act in a non-habitual way. And that effort works initially. Your mental and motivational efforts are high, but as famous coach and author Mel Robbins says, motivation is garbage. Motivation gets you started, but it's never there when you need it. So motivational levels are very high at the beginning, but start dropping when the initial excitement about the goal starts to fade. Additionally, people are likely to act habitually when they are exposed to everyday time pressures, distractions, and regulatory depletion that diminishes mental resources. So when under time pressure, people tend to simplify their decision making. They default to their established habits. For example, when pressured for time during a lunch break, they might grab a burger from the fast food joint across the street rather than making the longer trip to the healthier place a few blocks away. When distracted, people also fall short in their ability to choose a new action over habits in their memory because they are interrupted or preoccupied with another more demanding task. Research on these action slips highlights situations in which people find themselves carrying out unintended actions. Ever found yourself so deeply engaged in a phone conversation that you drove the route to work on a weekend despite wanting to drive to the store? Likewise, you might be so deep into the action thriller you're watching that you unintentionally finished a bucket of popcorn. Self-control resources also dictate how much of one's behavior is habitual. Those resources are not infinite. People's ability to control their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors makes use of a domain general resource that operates like a muscle. It depletes temporarily with use and it regenerates with rest. Because people deplete those resources when using self-control throughout the day, they do not always have the necessary resources to act in new, non-habitual ways. Bottom line is that direct habit cueing guarantees that habitual responses are dominant in people's minds. And this dominance is increased when everyday challenges limit the capacity to initiate new actions. So people unwillingly fall into habits. In some cases, people may not even be willing to change their behavior as a result of something called cognitive logging. They may simply prefer habits because these are easier to conduct than choosing a new behavior that feels more difficult. Imagine someone that does not know how to cook and is usually ordering takeout. For this person, switching to a healthier meal prep routine might be less desirable. Choosing the habit in this case creates feelings of familiarity and avoids the potential of failure in executing a new meal plan. Similarly, people may prefer habits because they don't realize that something needs to be changed. When we act habitually, we don't look for or even ignore information supporting alternative behavior. For instance, if you don't question your eating habits and think that exercise alone can help you reach your weight loss goals, you are setting yourself up for failure. Those two go hand in hand. Now we know that habits are key response connections in our memory that we have learned over many repetitions. We act habitually regardless of goals and intentions, so the issue with New Year's resolutions is that these are just an expression of new goals and intentions. Attempting to change behaviors by changing people's beliefs, goals, and intention has not proven fruitful. Research shows that such approaches only showed to be successful in changing non-habitual behaviors. In a study on habits, when a behavior was not repeated often, changing intentions, for instance wanting to get a flu shot, resulted in a behavior change, such as actually getting a flu shot. For frequently repeated behaviors, a change in intentions like wanting to eat healthy did not result in changed behaviors such as an actual diet change. So focusing on intention-based interventions alone to change habits does not work. What can we do then? In order to successfully change habits, the focus needs to turn to mechanisms that trigger these automatic responses, including interfering with the cued responses and being mindful about alternative responses. One approach to interfere with the cued responses is to exercise self-control. In an academic study, participants wanting to suppress unwanted behaviors showed that vigilant monitoring or heightened focus on the undesirable response, for instance thinking don't do it, was the most successful approach in using self-control. The strategy worked best for unwelcome habits, for example eating junk food. Vigilant monitoring may be most effective for controlling unwelcome habits in the short term. While more difficult to sustain in the long term, it may initiate lasting behavioral changes by controlling habits in the short term. Additionally, an effective way of changing habits is to remove or change the context cues that trigger such behavior. For example, if you have programmed yourself to eat a bag of chips when watching your favorite TV show, it's best not to have any bags of chips in the house, removing the cue altogether, or to replace it with a lower calorie version, thus exchanging the cue with a healthier alternative. It allows people to adopt new behaviors because they do not have to navigate competing habit cues. Similarly, people act more deliberately when their context changes altogether rather than responding to habit cues. Such changes naturally occur when people move to new places, begin new jobs, and associate themselves with different groups of people. So if you are changing your personal or professional environment, it's a good opportunity to go all in on your New Year's resolutions. Because when contexts change, your behavior is driven by your goals and intentions rather than established habits. If you're not looking for a new home or a new job, there are other ways to create a new context. How about joining a gym and creating a sort of accountability group with people that have the same goal? You change the people you hang out with, you change your results. Look, just know that it might take some time to reach your desired goals from your New Year's resolution, and that's completely normal. It's an uphill battle against your established behaviors. You might have a tough and long road ahead, but here are a couple of tricks that might help you get through the ups and downs. First, Mel Robbins, who I mentioned earlier, has written a whole book about the 5-second rule, and I don't mean the food fell on the floor kind of rule. She expands on the idea that we all have a habit of hesitating. It sends a stress signal to our brains that something must be up. Our brains are designed to protect us from uncomfortable, uncertain, scary things. So you have about a 5-second window from idea to action before your brain kicks into full gear and sabotages any change in behavior. By counting backwards, it does not work when you count forwards because you could always keep going. Backwards from 5, you can outsmart bombard your brain and interrupt your habit loops. You need to act within 5 seconds. Try this next time when you are inclined to hit the snooze button rather than getting out of bed to exercise. It works. Another trick is to use habit charts. Just a simple place like a journal or an app on your phone to log, review, and track all your progress toward your goal. With that, you should also identify your positive and negative keystone habits, which are on the one hand habits that help toward your goal, such as waking up early, and habits that work against your goals, such as excessive drinking on weekends. It's important to understand your habits. To quote Sheryl Sandberg here, we cannot change what we are not aware of, and once we are aware, we cannot help but change. With that, I hope you learned something you can apply to your New Year's resolutions. Please like, subscribe, and enjoy some of our other content.